All right, welcome in everybody. This is gonna be episode number 8 of the Monty and Murdy College Football Show. We thank y'all for joining us. We got a good episode for y'all. Monty, what's up, man? How you been?
Good. After this weekend, I feel a lot better about Tennessee football. But overall, another exciting week in the books. Only week two, going into week three, and we already got some drama. So, man, it's cooking up to be a great season. I'm excited to talk about this next week again, of course. Talk about the top 25. Um, few matchups we got coming up this next week. It's week three is a little bit slower of a week, but as some of the like Josh Pate was saying, it's you're still just because it's week three, you're never gonna miss out on something. Something's gonna happen this week, so I'm excited to talk about these matchups we got this week.
Yeah, so on this week's episode, as always, we're gonna do our week 2 recap. We'll discuss some of the big games, some of the ones we predicted last week, what we thought of them. We'll go through, update the AP top 25. We'll go into our week 3 preview, give y'all our predictions on some matchups, and then we'll finish up with our dubs and duds of the week. And then Monty will close us out as always with his weekly hot take. So we got an exciting episode for y'all. So let's go ahead and dive right in, man. We had Tennessee taking on NC State, ranked top 25 matchup, or at least it was last week. You know how it goes. One team loses a game and then they drop out. But what'd you think? Neutral site game. What were your thoughts on it?
Yeah, I mean this was an all-around impressive game for Tennessee. Obviously, at the time it was 14 versus 24 neutral site game. I already felt pretty good going into the game about it. Obviously, we talked last week. I was nervous for it because I just didn't know what to expect from NC State and honestly from Tennessee uh, as well. Man, that defensive front for Tennessee is dominant, dominant. I mean, what was it? 3 sacks, 2 fumble recoveries just for the D line, and then the defense in general. We had 3 sacks, 2 fumble recoveries, a pick six, 0 offensive touchdowns let up by that defense. I mean, it was just like pure domination on the defensive side, which at least in recent memory, that's not what Tennessee's been known for. Or it was either one or the other. It was either offense or defense. You have that Tennessee offense that's always going to do what it's going to do, and then another thing too, the rush game for our offense. I mean, 249 yards on the ground. Dylan Sampson had like 130 yards on the ground. And so you have this like almost complete team, which is what we haven't had. And, even in the 2022 team with Hendon Hooker, we had like an average defense, which, as you know, like if you have that, you can win 11 games. But I mean, this team might be more scary than I thought. So it was a very impressive game, 51-10, obviously, for those who didn't know the final score. But no, as I was talking to you about it before we went live, like it was kind of just like we slowly got to 51 point. Like it didn't ever really seem like it was a blowout until you got to the fourth quarter and you like looked at the screen like, holy crap, it's 51-10, you know? And now obviously with that trash time, I call it trash time pick six by Nico. Nico had 2 picks, but I really the one was all his fault. But yeah, I got that trash time pick six. But yeah, I mean, 0 offensive touchdowns let up. I was very impressed by our defense.
Yeah, man, I'm not gonna try to brag or anything here. But when I called this one last week, I said, "Hey, give me Tennessee by 40. Tennessee by 41 right here."
Yeah, yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
and like you said, I mean, that defense. It wasn't like they were going up. They weren't playing against a freshman or a rookie quarterback. Like Grayson McCall's got tons of starts, lots of experience, and they were just overwhelming. It was just the NC State offensive line and defensive line just couldn't match up. So Tennessee could really just do whatever they wanted on both sides of the ball, and that defensive line was just able to give Grayson McCall lots of issues all day.
Yeah, and that was the thing too. Like Nico's stat line: 16 of 23, 211, 2 touchdowns, 2 picks. You know, when you look at that, like it's not impressive or anything, but if you watched the game, actually played a really good ball game. It was just that we were just doing so well on the ground. Like I said, 250 yards on the ground. Dylan Sampson with 130 of them. like our O line was dominant. Our running backs were dominant. Like Nico had a 35-yard touchdown run, and that's our quarterback. And he's a redshirt freshman. So he's a young quarterback. He's gonna have growing pains. So I just think overall it was a very impressive game, and I'm not worried about Nico or our offense or anybody for that game. So
No, I think it spells really good signs. I mean, you take Nico, where he's kind of in his first real starting experience. He has his first big neutral site game, top 25 matchup. You want to see, hey, is he going to be, is he going to have kind of is he going to come in and perform in that environment, that difficult environment? And he did.
yeah,
He absolutely did. I mean, yeah, he threw 2 interceptions, and the one was real late. They were up big. Maybe got a little careless with the ball there at the end, but overall, I mean, just a really great day from Nico. And I don't think those 2 interceptions kind of discount that, if that makes sense.
yeah, no, not at all. And that was the thing too. I mean, throughout the game, he made some like great throws, like that one down the sideline to score White. I mean, Joe Milton wasn't making that throw last year, and Nico did it with ease. So yeah, like I said, very impressive game. Makes you feel a lot better going into these next few weeks, especially with us having to travel to Norman here in the next couple weeks. So overall impressive.
Yeah. So you got any more thoughts on your Volunteers there? Anything pressing?
No, I mean, obviously we were going to talk about the Kent State game coming up
Yeah.
briefly, but I'm not too worried about that game either. So 48-point favorite, I think.
Yeah. So just feeling good, 2-0, rolling on.
Want to know every week.
There it is. All right. So next up, we got the Texas versus Michigan game, which was, man, that was a beatdown.
Yeah, yeah.
That was an absolute beatdown. Texas offensive line. I thought Michigan's defensive line was going to be really good. I think they still are probably pretty good. They probably still have a really good defense, but I think Texas was just able to. It looked like when I was watching the initial parts of that game, it looked like Texas could line up, whoever you wanted on the defense side of that ball, and they were going to push them back. And
Eight for 10 on third down. Whole game.
yeah, and
That's insane.
insane. And I got a note here. It's like I saw Alfred Blue. He went down early with an injury. Looks like he came back into the game later. Um, and I got to know it's like this. They might not have any running backs. Does it even matter? Is that offensive line so good they could literally hand anybody the ball back there and get plus yardage? Get 4 or 5 yards because the offensive line is just getting that much push.
Yeah, yeah. That's one thing. I mean, the O line, but then I put Quinn Ewers is easily right now my Heisman favorite. I mean, after that game, poise in the pocket, all 4 quarters, total field general the entire time. That throw in the first half where he steps up and he just lobs up to his tight end. I mean that I was more impressed by that game by him than I had ever seen him in last year or these first 2 games this year. Like that was very impressive to watch Quinn Ewers do that and just total control of the game. He had that one rollout touchdown where he's throwing to his left, coming downhill, and he's a righty. That's at the pylon. That's a very hard throw to make, and I mean it was just like, yeah, that was an awesome game by Quinn Ewers. Another thing, Michigan quarterback problem, dude. They gotta figure something out
Mm-mm.
because that's not. They don't have the answer right now. Like you said, I do think their defense is fine. Still, that was a very, very, very good Texas team. I think it's Georgia and Texas right now. They're kind of like tier 1 in college football. So they're going to score points. I think Michigan's defense is fine, though. It's just that having one really solid corner versus Texas, who seemingly has reloaded at wide receiver, it's tough. It's tough. They're going to score 30 points, but I wouldn't be in panic mode in Ann Arbor just yet. I still think they're an 8-9 win team, but offensive side, they got to do something. I mean, their run game, like what's his name? The running back, I'm blanking on his name. The guy on the dang cover of EA. Donovan Edwards.
Yeah,
Donovan
Donovan
Edwards.
Edwards. Yeah.
He's averaging like 2 or 3 yards a carry this season, and he's a cover athlete. Like they got to figure something out. I'm not saying it's his fault, but They got to do something on offense.
Which is, it's kind of weird thinking that their offensive line seems to have really taken a step back. Now, granted, Michigan did lose a lot of starters from last year's team. However,
Yeah,
their head coach was an offensive lineman. Sharon
pretty
Moore,
much.
that was, that when he was playing, that was what he did. He was
Mhm.
an O line guy, and I just want to make sure I don't feel like we've been getting the scores out on these ones. So whenever we start them, so Texas did win 31-12,
There you go. Yeah.
uh, at playing at Michigan, and man, the Texas fans, they traveled really well. If you watch that game, it looked in the fourth quarter they had taken
Mhm.
over that stadium,
Oh yeah.
and there was nothing but pretty much Texas fans left. Basically all the Michigan fans had rolled out, and man, Texas sang their fight song, and it was really just not a good look for the defending national champions. Let's just say that.
Yeah. No, it was not, and I just think it again goes back to it shows that Texas really might be that good this year.
Well, does Michigan just struggle with that? The old saying that if you have two quarterbacks, you have no quarterbacks, and
I just
with
think neither of them are anything like neither of them are elevating to that next level to become the quarterback. So what are they to do?
yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say either one of those guys are going to be NFL guys. Probably not develop into it, and it's kind of odd, Michigan that they wouldn't, with so much quarterback turnover coming in the portal, that Michigan wouldn't try to, address that issue in the portal this offseason, knowing kind of what they had at hand. But
Tough scenes up there on the offensive side.
yeah, if they don't turn something around pretty quick, they may be looking at a lot of low scoring ball games, but probably some probably some tough games to watch on the
Well,
offensive side of the ball.
they got USC coming to town in 2 weeks, so we'll see.
It's not a lot of time to figure it out because USC looks dominant.
Yeah, they got Arkansas State coming this week, and then they got USC at the Big House again. So it'll be interesting.
All right, well, we'll go ahead and roll on to our next game. One that we predicted wrongly, close game like we thought it would be.
Very happy I was wrong on this one, and I almost hit you up after the last episode saying I want to change my pick because as I was thinking about this game, we're talking about Iowa State.
Yeah,
Uh, Iowa State won 20-19, which either way that it went, I predicted the score was going to be low like that. I mean, it's always that low. It's always a low scoring game. Very happy I was wrong. Iowa State did win. Um, I was out watching this game and I was in my all orange and I'm sitting for Iowa State getting weird looks from people. But no, I was very happy. I was worried at halftime. 13-0 deficit to Iowa at halftime. 13-0 deficit to Iowa at halftime is like 50-0 deficit to
yeah.
anybody else. I mean, I was a little worried, and no, but I had seen a note that you put in the notes that I'll let you speak on. But yeah, Rocco Becht, man, clutch dude.
Yeah. What's weird about this one, man, is for 3 quarters it seemed like Iowa was the better football team,
Yeah,
just by how the game was playing out. I mean, first half Iowa was pretty much dominant. Iowa State couldn't get a lot going on the offensive side of the ball, but it seemed like when the fourth quarter rolled around, a big step for Rocco Becht there was, he had that clutch drive to lead Iowa State, down the field, and it says a lot about his wherewithal and like what that program can depend on him. And I think this is a huge win for this Iowa State team that's going to be going into a difficult Big 12. And this is a really important game for them to have won this
yeah,
early on.
absolutely. Well, and that's the thing too, and with how, and I know it's going into week 3, still early, but you kind of start to see the Big 12 sort of shaping itself out, and you see how Oklahoma State, how they struggled with Arkansas, especially early in that game. It's like you start to see is Iowa State starting to become one of those serious contenders, beating Iowa, an in-state rival, a game that's always tough for both teams. You got Coach Campbell now, who's won 2 of the last 3 of the Cyhawk games. Rocco Becht, was this his like coming into form game? Was this his legacy? Was this okay? Next step, is this the next step for Iowa State? So it's exciting, and it kind of makes you wonder: is like, can Iowa State be one of those serious, legitimate Big 12 contenders, and then therefore a playoff contender? If they won the Big 12.
Yeah, and I mean, it depends if you can get that Rocco Beck from the fourth quarter. I know Iowa State, this kind of sounds redundant, but I know Iowa State would like to get that for 4 quarters through a game.
Right. And that's just not what they do.
Yeah, it's just not. But hey, it's they got a couple easier games coming up before they got a big matchup with West Virginia in week 5. So a little time for that offense to still round into form. Early in the season, there's still maybe some difficulties that they're struggling with there. So they got a little bit of time to kind of get it caught up, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I just pulled up the Iowa State. Yeah, they got. So is Michigan on bye? No way, right? Because it's showing Iowa State plays Arkansas State, but.
Oh, sorry. There's so Michigan plays Arkansas State, and then I think Iowa State might be on a bye. 9-14.
Okay. Yeah, that's what it is. Yeah, you're right.
So
yeah, because I was gonna say So Arkansas State,
week 6
Houston,
matchup.
Yeah, Arkansas State, Houston, Baylor. I mean, you could make this. You can make a serious argument that Iowa State goes into that West Virginia game 5-0.
Which that'd put them right.
You're looking good. You're looking good there. And then that's gonna be a tough game in Morgantown, but. Yeah, anyways, I don't want to go through the State's whole schedule. But.
Yeah. No. So, Iowa State, big-time win, big fourth-quarter comeback. Rocco Beck looked great in it. We can go ahead and roll on to...
I was just going to say 55-yard field goal to cap it off. It was helping.
Yeah. We can go ahead and roll on to Oklahoma State, Arkansas. Kind of a wild game. Was really just kind of all over the place. Arkansas came out, jumped on them early. It looked like Oklahoma State didn't have any answers for Taylon Green, Arkansas's quarterback. Oh, just getting out. Arkansas won in 2 overtimes, 39-31.
Oklahoma State did.
Oklahoma State won in double overtime there against Arkansas. And, man, it's a game of almost 2 halves. Arkansas was dominant. It looked like they were going to blow Oklahoma State out. Even after throwing the pick 6, it still seemed like Arkansas still had, enough to overcome that, but just kind of a weird twist and turns and odd decisions by both coaching staffs that led to really an interesting game.
So my girlfriend went to Arkansas, so we watched this game. It was 21-7 or something. I think it was like 21-0 at some point. I don't want to get that wrong, but it was 21-7 at halftime. This game, Arkansas just drove me up a wall. How you look at this stat line and without telling anybody, if you were to tell somebody the stat line and then ask who won without telling them the score, you'd be like, oh, Arkansas dominated. 648 total yards for Arkansas. 416 in the air, 232 on the ground. 648 total. Oklahoma State, 326 passing yards. Most of those in the second half. 59 yards on the ground. 59. Less than 100 yards on the ground. 385 yards of total offense. And they won 39. They basically scored 40 points. Granted, second overtime. But, when you have 648 to 385 and you're losing games, come on, dude.
Yeah, I think I read some kind of crazy statistic. Teams that have been outscored by, that many or outgained by that many yards were like 337-0 until this game, and then they're now like 337-1. Because Arkansas somehow managed to lose this.
You got out-yarded by almost 300 freaking yards, and you won. or I should say, you out-yarded that other team by almost 300 yards and you lost. I mean, it's like, yeah, watching the end of that game, it was brutal, man. I really thought Arkansas was going to pull it off, and then once we got to even that first overtime, we were watching, and it was just like you could tell Oklahoma State was going to win that game.
Yeah,
You
it
could
seemed like
tell things started going wrong for Razorbacks, and Oklahoma State was pushing the ball down the field within like 2-3 plays. Yeah, I was like, oh boy, but I was hopeful, but yeah, I mean, you can't let another team do that when you are that dominant for all 4 quarters, seemingly.
yeah, it's kind of crazy how you managed to lose a game like that. And man, to be honest, I thought Arkansas was going to carry their momentum. You know, they won 72 or 73-0 week 1. And I was like, man, this
70-0, yeah.
this Arkansas team might be a real issue. After watching, first quarter or so of that Oklahoma State game, and then they just seemed to just. I don't even know if I can call that choking away a game. I don't understand how you managed to figure out how to lose that game.
Yeah. No, I mean, same thing. I remember I was sitting next to my, so we were out, and at this point we were watching the Texas game, the Texas Michigan game, and obviously Texas was doing their thing, and she had her game, she had the Arkansas game on her phone, and we're watching that too, and I'm like, in my head, I'm like thinking, I think I might be a little bit worried about Arkansas this year, because Tennessee plays Arkansas October 5th.
Yeah.
And so I was like, in my head, I was like, I might be a little worried about Arkansas. But yeah, and then all of a sudden, they just stopped scoring points. They kept getting yards, right?
Yeah.
They kept it between the 20s, but, you know, they weren't scoring points.
No, they just they forgot they had to go that additional 20 yards in the red zone. They thought the red zone, they treated the red zone almost like lava that game. I don't understand it.
It's like if they were able to keep track of like what's his name? The quarterback, man.
Taylor Green?
Yeah, Taylor Green, thank you. If you're able to keep track of his like fantasy points in between the 20s, he'd have all these yards in between the 20s, and then he just like 12 points of actual, like touchdown points. Anyways, yeah, shocking game. Yeah. Shocking game. It's too bad for Arkansas. Good job for Oklahoma State. Weird game overall.
Yeah, don't doubt Mike Gundy and the Cowboys. So,
yeah,
figure out a odd way to get to a win.
Hey, man. 1-0 each week.
Yeah. So, moving on to our next game, we got Oregon versus Boise State. Man, a really close one. Oregon's played 2 very close games here the first 2 weeks. Boise State, they just seem to not be able to have enough on defense to be able to win this game and close it out. What do you think? Are there any potential issues for Oregon that you see?
So their biggest issue right now is O-line play. I mean, they gave up 4 more sacks. So they gave up 3 in the first week against Idaho. They gave up 4 against Boise State. So they've given up 7 total sacks to the state of Idaho this year. And 7 total this year. That's 2 more than they gave up all last year. So they gave up 5 sacks total last year, and then 5 sacks the year before. And they're already at 7 after week 2. So I don't know what's going on in the O-line, what they need to fix for the O-line. It's nothing Dylan Gabriel's doing wrong. I mean, he's still playing. They're still winning games. They survived the state of Idaho in the first 2 weeks. 37-34 with that last second field goal. Boise State is a really good football team this year. I do really believe that. I think they're going to probably end up being one of those bubble teams that is talked about at the end of the season for that playoff spot.
Well, I mean, if Ashton Jeanty keeps running the ball the way he's been doing,
right. And that's what I was just about to talk about. I mean, that dude is a freaking. He's the best running back in the country, obviously. And I think he's the best running back in the country. He's the best running back with best NFL potential. We see that with just these 2 weeks that we've watched. So yeah, Boise State's fine. Oregon's defense is fine too, I think. I mean, they played a really good Boise State team. If Boise State had a better defense, I think it'd be a lot different, but that's just, they struggle on defense, and that's just what it is. And that's the difference between I don't want to say Big Ten. They are a Big Ten team, but it's like the first year. But Power 4 team versus a non-Power 4 team, just it shows the talent difference. And we predicted it right. I mean, we predicted it was going to be closer than, or at least I think I did, said it was going to be closer than people thought. But yeah, Oregon's got to figure out the O-line situation because, yeah, they're giving up a lot of sacks, and I just don't think that in Big Ten play, they're not gonna win the games that they're supposed to, or that they need to win, the big ones, if they're gonna give up. If they're averaging giving up 3.5 sacks a game right now, so that's not gonna win you a Big Ten championship.
Yeah, and I don't know what their quarterback situation looks like behind Dylan Gabriel, but Dylan Gabriel, he's already a smaller quarterback to begin with. And if you're getting him hit that often in a game, that doesn't really spell well for him making it through the season, without injuries. So if Oregon wants to live up to the aspirations that they had at the beginning of the season, they're definitely going to need to figure out a way to keep Dylan Gabriel upright.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, the good thing, Dan Lanning knows it. Like, Dan Lanning knows that they didn't play the best. I don't want to say I don't have the quote, but he said basically that they had to clean up some things moving forward. So he knows that they're not playing their best brand of football, which is good that he knows that. But they do need to figure it out. Otherwise, it could be a longer season than people projected. Because I planned on them being one of the top teams in the country come the end of the season. So we shall see.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see kind of how they age. Do you know Oregon's schedule off the top of your head?
Not off the top of my head. I know they got they have some big games that luckily come to Eugene. I do know that.
Yeah, I got it right here. So they got Oregon State next, UCLA, Michigan State. So they got some winnable games there before they got a big matchup with Ohio State on October 12th.
That was the one I noted. That one they have Ohio State coming to Eugene, which is a lot better than going there to the shoe. Yeah, I mean, because their biggest away game for the whole season, I mean, it's going to Ann Arbor, which, as we've seen, might not be as big of a feat as it normally is for teams. So
apparently, you can take over that stadium. I don't know. It's just
we'll see. And I know Oregon fans are passionate. And they like to travel too. So I think that Ohio State game, man, we'll see how these other teams pan out. Ohio State really might be their only big. The Michigan game, of course, too. Michigan Ohio State game are really the only two. I thought maybe they'd play USC this year.
Well,
we'll see.
We'll see. We'll see if Oregon get its ship turned. I'm not really worried about Boise State. I think they got a real good chance as long as if they can put up over 200 rushing yards a game, you're probably got a real good chance to beat just about anybody.
If they can keep GT not shut down,
if
people can't figure them out by the end of this year, I think they'll be all right.
So next game up on the block, we got Colorado versus Nebraska, and man, this was a beatdown. Colorado just didn't have anything for Nebraska, which I mean, I called this one. Nebraska was one of the teams that I felt could be really good this year, and I think this was a big statement win for Matt Rule. I think this Nebraska program, they really needed this. The fan base came and showed out. I don't know if you watched kind of like their fourth quarter, performance show they did, like the whole thing. It feels like this was a huge statement win for Nebraska here.
Oh yeah, huge statement win. It was. I mean, it's a big historic rivalry for both teams. Lincoln Memorial was freaking rocking, which is always good to see. You love seeing those blue bloods get their swagger back. Being gone for a while. Starting to believe in Nebraska. I definitely believe they're a top 25 team. We'll see, and maybe even top 15 team. Dylan Raiola, he had a similar outing like Nico, where it wasn't really like googly eyed stuff. But again, true freshman, right? And then Nico being a redshirt freshman, so young guys. He didn't turn the ball over though. That's the thing. Big old donut in the turnover column for Raiola, which is what you want to see from a true freshman quarterback.
Absolutely.
And because he had like 160 yards or passing or something like that, and so it wasn't crazy, but no turnovers. And then they just let that defense take the game. 6 sacks
Yeah, I
in the
mean,
first half.
yeah. Shadur
I
Sanders
mean,
spent a lot of time on his back there, and
yeah, yeah. And I
just
won't harp on Shadir too much right now because he will be talked about by me later in the episode. But
all right. One other thing I wanted to hit on, at least for this game, man, Nebraska has a defense on them. I
yeah,
mean, like
yeah,
they held Colorado to 16 rushing yards, 16, and granted that's not really known what Colorado's known for. That's but even Shadur, I figured he would at least get more than 16 himself. He's a very mobile, dual threat athlete playing the quarterback position. And I thought he could at least, I thought he would easily eclipse that probably himself. And
yeah.
not to mention maybe get some Travis Hunter on like some reverses or something like that. But man, Nebraska was just all over Colorado, and just Colorado just didn't match up as far as the offensive and defensive line. Kind of similar to how the Texas game went. The Nebraska just dominated them from pretty much start to finish in this one.
Yeah, I mean, 28-0 at halftime. Final score is 28-10. Obviously, they probably could have done more damage, but they didn't need to, right? So,
Foot off
no,
the gas,
Nebraska.
baby. Foot
Yeah,
off the gas.
Nebraska looks good. The defense looks great. Lincoln was working. I've never been a big believer in Colorado. Even when Dion first got there, as you know, we used to talk about um, with Pettigrew.
Shout out to our boy Pettigrew.
I predicted it from day one. I just I'm not a big believer in Colorado. They get exposed every year with Dion and company. So awesome to see Nebraska probably being.
Yeah, and I mean, my thing is, this is probably very clearly, Shadur Sanders and Travis Hunter's last year at Colorado. So, my thing I'm looking at is where do they go from there? What do you turn to when you don't have arguably two of the best players in college football on your
Yeah,
team?
man. Yeah, and you got people talking about Dion going to Florida. It's like, man, if I would you want to hire that? I don't know. I'm just a guy in a bedroom doing a college podcast with a couple listeners. But
Yeah,
I probably wouldn't want for PR reasons
yeah.
and culture reasons. I wouldn't.
If you're the AD, not pulling the trigger on that one.
I think, man, I wouldn't do it. But Florida's probably going to be needing a new head ball coach here soon, so we'll see.
Maybe. We'll get to that a little later. All right. All right. We got one game left on our. No, we got one game left on our recap.
Oh, yeah. So for background, whoever's listening, you might have caught on to it at the beginning. Normally, we talk about our games first, Tennessee and Oklahoma games first, to get them out of the way for people, so we can talk about the rest of college football. As you might have heard, that we only talked about the Tennessee game. we saved this one for last. So the floor is yours.
All right, I'm gonna save y'all. If you're listening to this with your kids in your car, I apologize if I let out any explicits here. OU hosted Houston. They pulled out a 16-12 win that they honestly should have fucking lost. This was a downright disgraceful game. An abysmal offensive performance. The offensive line, they looked like they played better this week than they did in week one, but somehow we still weren't able to move the ball. I don't know. Jackson Arnold looked downright atrocious. This is not the kind of game that you look for as you're coming, into your SEC play. If you're hosting Tennessee and you're eyeing this Tennessee matchup as you're opening to the SEC, you look at this one and you say, everything Tennessee is good at, we are very bad at. And that is not a good matchup. We can't find any creases in the run game. Pass blocking, like I said, it was slightly improved, but Jackson Arnold's just missing wide open receivers. Granted, we do have some receiver hurts. They're double. Deion Burks is getting pretty much a double team or a shadow with the safety coverage almost on every route he's running. So we're not able to get too much deep threat with Deion Burks there. But overall, man, it just looks bad and it is tough to watch. I don't want to beat on them too much, but dang, I'm going to have trouble freaking if this offensive can't find some rhythm, it can't find some flow. We are absolutely terrible on third down. Uh, Granted, we were a little better in week 2 somehow than we were in week 1, but that's just because I don't even think we converted one in week 1. We got one third down on week 1, and it's just, man, it just hasn't looked good. It hasn't looked efficient. They haven't been able to drive the ball down the field. Steady, solid gains, good first and second down plays, setting up for a successful third down. We're averaging a 3rd and 8. So with our first 2 plays, we're collectively getting 2 yards. And then we're playing a 3rd and 8, and the team is just pinning their ears back and blitzing Jackson Arnold. And, it's just you're not setting up a young quarterback for success playing like that. And I don't know how they fix it. I hope that they can get healthy. Maybe we get some better offensive linemen, some of our starters back on the O-line, be able to figure out a good starting 5 there, and then hopefully get some receivers back healthy. But, man, right now it's a painful watch on offense. And I don't want to – all right, I'm not going to crap on them too bad because that defense looks downright amazing. They kept us in this game. Without the defense, we absolutely lose this game. And there's not really any heck, without the defense or the special teams, we lose this game. They got a safety in this game. Grayson Halton late on like a first and 10 play from like the 4-yard line, blows through the line of scrimmage, gets a safety. Lots of good stuff over on the defensive side of the ball. But man, it's
so let me ask you this, because I didn't really watch y'all's game. Are you more concerned about how they did this game because of what Houston did against UNLV, or what they didn't do against UNLV? Is that why you feel this way? Because you think that Houston is lesser because they lost the way that they did against UNLV? Or is it more about just you think they should have downright embarrassed Houston regardless?
I think this one is more about really our lack of performance, if that makes sense.
So regardless of what Houston did against UNLV, it's more about just that you think you should have beat them up and down, left and right, no matter what.
Well,
even if they beat UNLV the other way, 27-0, rather than losing to them.
Well, I think it doesn't really matter about who you match up with. OU's got a real good test. We'll get to it a little later. They got a real good test coming in this week. But even whenever you're playing against, you see these group of 5 teams or these FCS teams come and play these Power 5 programs. And they're still able to move the ball. You're still able to see what they do, and you're like, hey, they might not win this game. They might not have enough talent to beat this team, but that's still a good team. It's like UCF whenever they played Bama. It's like that was still a good team, but with us, it just seems like it doesn't matter who was on the other side of the ball. We did not perform well.
Well, and you got to
did not execute well.
You got to remember too, though. Houston is a Big 12 team. I mean, they're not Group of 5. They're Big 12, and Houston is historically pretty good at football. Now with the UNLV loss, yeah, but I don't know. Obviously, it's too early to tell if Houston's just bad or if Oklahoma played down. I wouldn't be selling Oklahoma yet, personally. I think, yes, you definitely should have won by more than 4 points, but I wouldn't be selling so hard yet. I think this, and like I said, we'll talk about that matchup in the Week 3 preview, but I'm not too worried about Tulane. I think for OU, that was kind of like that was close kind of thing. Now let's not do that again. I think that's what that more was, hopefully, for y'all.
I'm just saying, the way it looked, OU put up 250 yards of offense, 249 actually. I'm not going to give them that credit for that yard. 4 yards per play. And I mean, the rushing numbers aren't bad. The passing numbers aren't great. 4 for 14 on third down. That's just not going to get you where you need to be. You're not playing winning football at that point.
And other than it being 4 for 14, with that low percentage. The other thing is like, why are you letting your offense get to third down 14 times? You should not be getting to third down on 14. You know, if you're supposed to be the dominant team, 14 third downs, whether it be 3rd and 5, 3rd and 4, 3rd and 2, whatever, you're
It's not.
still third down way too much.
Well, that's the issue is that we're having these long third downs because we're not making any progress on first and second down.
Which is my point.
Yeah, and you're having to play hero ball on third down. And I just don't think that's with a young quarterback. That's not how you want to be. I don't think with any quarterback, not even a young one, I don't think with any quarterback that's how you want to be playing football. You don't need him to play hero ball on third down 6 times.
It's not sustainable.
On a drive. Yeah, 6 times on a drive. That's not sustainable. And we're just getting, teams are, quite frankly, we're just going 3 and out so many times. I mean, we had the ball for 24 minutes in this game. Houston had it 35 and scored 12 points. I mean, our defense is solid, but overall, the offense has just got a lot of things to figure out.
Yeah. And we can talk more about Oklahoma once we get to the Tulane OU matchup. But you want to move into that top 25?
Yeah, let's move on to top 45. I could rant about them forever, so just know I'm very frustrated. But I will kick it off whenever we get to the preview.
I'm not too worried about OU so far this year. Scary win, but a win nonetheless.
All right, so top 25. Is there anything? There's only a couple things that really stand out to me this week. Big mover is obviously going to be Tennessee after that top 25 win, up 7 spots to number 7. Georgia, Texas. Texas now the new number 2, jumped Ohio State. Missouri up 3 to number 6. Oregon with a kind of not really a big drop down to number 9.
State at 8.
Yeah, Oklahoma. Go ahead.
I was just welcoming Miami into the top 10 this week.
Yep, Miami into the top 10. Oklahoma stayed neutral, sat at 15. Big drop from Notre Dame after their loss to NIU, down 13 to number 18. And then we got
big drop for Michigan, going from 10 to 17, dropping 7 after their loss to Texas at home. We didn't really talk much about that Notre Dame NIU game.
I got it later. I got it later.
We'll wait then.
All right. Other than that,
Iowa State came in. It says they didn't move, but they weren't ranked until they beat Iowa. So Northern Illinois though, with beating Notre Dame, they're at 25. So
yep, Boston College joining the top 25, and Nebraska joining the top 25.
So yeah. I love it. I love at the beginning of the season when the top 25 moved around. You get to see those teams in the 20s that kind of come and go and maybe even stay. It's fun seeing that. So yeah, a lot from 19 to 25, it's cool seeing those teams. I guess excluding Clemson, but.
So you ready to do our week 3 preview?
I'm ready for it. So we're let's see. So you are 17-6?
Yep.
Going in this week, and I'm 16-8.
Correct.
So far, so we're right around the same.
Mm-hmm.
Murdy's got a little bit of a nudge on me, but I think we have some disagreements on this one from what I saw. So
yeah. So we'll go ahead and
so leading off of what you were just talking about, we can start with Tulane and OU. Tulane takes the fight to Norman, Oklahoma this week, folks. And Murdy, who you got?
All right. Well, Green Wave gave Kansas State a real tough game last week. Probably, maybe even should have won that game against Kansas State.
Would say I would probably say the same, that they could have won that game.
All right.
Probably should have.
And I beat on Oklahoma in our recap. There's a lot of things I want to say, but I said all that to say that give me Oklahoma this week, baby. I think it's going to be a close game, but man, I got to stick with my boys. I got to stick with that defense. I don't think Tulane is going to score over 20 in this game on that Oklahoma defense. So I'm hoping Jackson Arnold can put up over 20. Give them to me in a close game, but I think maybe they start to figure out a little something on offense before we host Tennessee and Norman next week.
Yeah, I also have Oklahoma win this game. I did speak on it briefly when you were talking about your last game. I do think The Houston game is kind of like a whole. Okay, ooh, that was close. Let's start doing our shit now. I think it's like a 14-point game. I think it's more like a 34-20, maybe even like a 31-17, 34-17. I do think their defense is very good. I think Jackson Arnold is a good enough playmaker to make the plays that are necessary to win a game like this. Obviously, we're saving our favorite episode for next week when OU and Tennessee play, but I think Norman's going to be too much for Tulane. I think the Power 4 team is going to be too much for Tulane. Tulane's very good. Tulane's another one of those bubble teams. Tulane's going to give you a fight, and I think they're going to give you a fight early. But I think that defense is. I think you're going to get a couple sacks late, maybe even a turnover here or there. And yeah, I got OU by like 14.
All right, so right around the spread number.
Yeah.
All right, so we'll go ahead and roll on. I don't think we got a disagreement on this one. Kent State at Tennessee. I think Tennessee's going to blow them out. I don't know if they cover the 48-point spread, but that's just
tough. It's a tough spread.
That's a tough spread. Tough spread to cover. I mean, maybe Tennessee starts to, pulls Nico. I know they're trying to get him a lot of reps. That's why they've left him in all these games, so he's even playing late because they're trying to get him as many reps as possible. But that being said, I think Tennessee might be wise to maybe try out a little bit of backup quarterback play just to see how those guys look, just because it is really hard, especially in the SEC, to keep a quarterback healthy through every game.
Yeah. I would not take the spread on this one only because I think leading with – so Kent State just lost to a really bad FCS team, St. Francis, I think. So they just lost because normally Kent State, they're one of those Group of 5 teams that, they go like 8-4, 9-3 in the MAC, whatever, they're always like pretty impressive when it comes to Group of 5 play. And so I was like, man, I looked it up after our NC State game and I was like, man, let's see what the Golden Flash are doing. And I saw they lost like, I think it was St. Francis. I'll pull it up real quick. Of course, it doesn't show the whole schedule here. There it is. St. Francis of Pennsylvania. They lost 23-17. So I saw that and I was like, well, yeah. So we're favored by 48. I wouldn't take the spread because I think with leading up to the Oklahoma game, I think they're going to keep the playbook very closed. If I know Heupel, I think they're going to keep the playbook very closed. They're probably going to try to get the starters out of there by halftime. So you might see the scoreboard lit up in that first half, but after that, I think they're pulling everybody because they're waiting for SEC ball at that point. So yes, UT big, but I wouldn't take the spread.
Yeah. Like I said, I see this one being more like a maybe, I don't know, 3 to.
I'd still go with a 48, 48-10.
I'd say 45-7. Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. I'd go with that. Yeah.
All right, moving on. We got Arizona at Kansas State. Monty, who you got in this one?
This is one of the tougher ones for me to pick. We might disagree. I don't know. I didn't see your pick on this one, but we might disagree on this one. I think after watching K-State Tulane, K-State being at home, going down early against Tulane arguably should have won that game. I think Arizona's feeling pretty good right now. I'm taking the Cats. Taking the Bearcats.
Got to clarify.
Yeah, taking the Bearcats, Arizona, in a close one. I think that the away team, I think Arizona's good. They got, man, I don't want to butcher his last name, so I'll just say that
Fafita.
receiver.
Oh,
No, Tafafailoa or something like that. I don't want to butcher his name, but Heisman, one of my favorite Heisman candidates is that. But yeah, I think that they're going to be a lot on offense, and K-State's a slow offense compared to them, so I'm going with Arizona.
Yeah, we could just call him McMillan. His last name's McMillan. Yeah, then we got Noah Fafita. This one, I'm agreeing with you. I'm going with the Arizona in this one. I think this is going to be a really tough game. And granted, I tossed it up quite a bit back and forth. But I think overall the Arizona offense might just score a little too many points for Kansas State there.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
Next up, we got a surprising. I would call this a surprising top 25 matchup. I don't think anybody had this pinned as a top 25 matchup on their
Not
preseason poll.
I would say not preseason, but
Yeah, but we got Boston College at Missouri. Missouri, the number 6 team in the country, hosting their first really big challenge of the year, if you want to
call it big challenge. Yeah.
As far as Missouri's schedule, this is pretty big for them.
Marquee matchup.
Yeah, exactly. So who you got in this one, Monty?
So short answer is Mizzou. I do have Mizzou. It pains me to say. Although, I was like, oh yeah, because Boston College won their last matchup in 2021, I believe, in a total nail biter. I think it went to overtime. It was like 41-34 or something like that. But Mizzou being just a better roster, I picked them. But then I started thinking, this game is Boston College's red bandana game. And so I was like, well, I don't know. Like BC, they're pretty good. But I just don't know enough about BC this year yet to trust them to win this game. I hope they win. I hope I'm wrong, but I'm going with Mizzou.
Yeah, I'm going with Mizzou as well. I think Boston College, I think they're not going to be a team that beats themselves. I mean, I think people kind of underestimate just what kind of coach Bill O'Brien is. He was one of the few guys that was able to dual hat, GM and head coach in the NFL. It was pretty much him and Bill Belichick that were the ones, that were doing that, running that operation. And, he did it for quite a few years in Houston. Granted, it didn't end well, especially with, whatever his tenure there. But overall, I think this Boston College team is going to come in. They're not going to beat themselves. They're going to play efficient football. They're not going to turn the ball over. And I think they will at least make it a game. Overall, I
hope they do.
I think Mizzou is probably just going to have too much talent for them.
I think it just comes down to talent at this point. As long as Mizzou can execute, they're fine. Like I said, I hope BC wins because I hate Mizzou and I love when they do the red bandana game, especially for the cause that it is. It's awesome, but yeah, I just think Mizzou is going to be too talented.
Yeah, I would like to pick Boston College in this game.
I'd love to. I just don't think it's going to happen.
Pulling for them. However, if I'm picking Mizzou.
Yeah.
Next game up, we got one that was one of your hot takes earlier in the season. We got Bama at Wisconsin. How you still feeling about the hot take?
I still feel, because I didn't say that they were going to win.
No.
I just said that they'd keep it a game. I do still think that Wisconsin's probably going to keep it a game early. It can get ugly. I'm not saying it will, but it can. I think that Wisconsin, I think that Madison's going to be going freaking crazy. I think it's going to be rocking, similar to how we saw Lincoln this past week with Colorado. When Bama comes to town, no matter where they play, the home team crowds, they're going to show up. That's just what it is. That's just how Bama's known. And, if Wisconsin wins, they might even freaking rush the field. That's how everyone does it against Bama, apparently.
If Wisconsin wins this game, they better rush the field.
Yeah, right. Yeah. But no, I do have Bama winning this game still. Wisconsin keeps it close early, first half. I think that Bama opens it up second half. But who knows? Because the product we saw against South Florida last week, I was like, "Ooh, Bama." But it also seems like they're starting to figure themselves out too. So I got Bama by, what's the spread?
Spread 16.
I got Bama. I can't take that spread yet. I'm not saying I wouldn't, but I can't yet.
So you're not backing off the hot take, still saying closer than the spread?
Closer than the spread. Than the spread. As of right now. I'll be the first to admit I'm wrong next week if I'm wrong, but
yeah, Wisconsin hasn't shown us a lot so far this year. They've had 2 very close wins, almost the exact same scores on both of them. 14-point differentials, one 13-27, the other one 14-28. I think they'll show up. Bama has shown, if you can come out, play with them, play efficient ball like USF did, which I think USF is they're probably a really good team this year. So I don't think it's...
Golish is an awesome coach. He was Tennessee's OC with Heupel and then took the USF job. And ever since then, USF's been a lethal team.
Yeah, I don't think I don't think I don't think it's one of those things where it's like, oh, Bama just played way down. No, I think USF is just probably pretty good team and was able to hang with Alabama there for at least the first 3 quarters. Alabama kind of took it over late. But with this game, if I'm picking head to head, I got to take Bama here. I don't think Wisconsin has shown enough, and I would say that Bama probably does cover the spread of 16 on this one. I'd say that Bama probably wins 38 to maybe 20-ish.
Okay. Yeah, I'm a big fan of Luke Fickell, Wisconsin's head coach. I think he embodies the Wisconsin, hardcore punch in the mouth aura that Wisconsin has, and so I think they will punch Bama in the mouth. Kind of slow down. I haven't seen enough from Bama yet this year to be like, okay, it's Bama. No, it's definitely Bama. And maybe this is that game, but as of right now, I'm still keeping it close. But I'll be the first to admit next week if I'm wrong.
All right, so moving on, we got what I didn't think was going to be an interesting game, but it kind of is if you look at it now. Kansas was a preseason top 25 team, lost last week. So it's UNLV, University of Nevada, Las Vegas, at Kansas. And Monty, who you got in this one?
Yeah, I still think KU's got the playmakers. I think the Illinois game. Illinois got a pretty good roster too, and it was their first sold out game in like 6 years. I think it was just too much for KU, but no, UNLV coming to Lawrence, Kansas. Now I got KU all the way.
I don't know exactly what the spread is on this one. However, I did watch some UNLV tape. I have not watched any KU tape this year. I'm not going to lie about it, but I did watch some UNLV tape just because Houston had played them week 1. I wanted to kind of see what that game looked like. And in this one, I'm going to differentiate from you. I'm going to go UNLV here. I think they've looked really good. I think they're probably one of the top group of 5 teams. And Kansas seems to be struggling a little bit early on.
If you were to say that statement to me, specifically me, like 5 years ago, I'd call you freaking crazy. UNLV being one of the best group of 5 teams, I would be like, you are insane.
Well, to be honest, I'm not sure how much I buy it as well. However, man, UNLV looks good. They've looked good 2 weeks in a row.
Hey,
and
they were coming into their own last year too, so it doesn't surprise me.
And I mean, overall, like I said, I gotta go with UNLV here, and kind of crazy. I do have some points about them later on that we'll talk about, but yeah, give me UNLV in this one. Taking the win over Kansas, big win for UNLV here.
Okay, hey, walking into Lawrence, Kansas, beating the Jayhawks. That's our first disagreement of the week.
Yeah, thank you.
I'll mark that one.
Yeah, go ahead, and they're gonna remind Kansas that they're a basketball school. All right.
which historically UNLV is a basketball school also.
Yeah. Yeah. So next up, we got really man, this is going to be a really good matchup. Yeah.
The backyard brawl.
Backyard brawl. West Virginia at Pitt. Monty, who you got in this one, man?
It goes back to our week 1 conversation about
me too.
The Penn State game in West Virginia. I still am buying into this West Virginia team being that confident, veteran, tough team. I think this is obviously a massive matchup for these two programs. I think it is going to be a shootout. I really I like that West Virginia roster too much. I'm going with the Mountaineers.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. Give me Garrett Green, the Mountaineers, Neil Brown. I think they are going to be. They lost their first big rivalry game this year, right? This is probably right up there with it as far as how the rivalry is viewed. Let me get West Virginia for redemption here. Win this rivalry game and get off to a
close one for me, and a close one.
I think, I mean, a lot of rivalry game. Yeah, I can't predict a blowout in it. But overall, I think West Virginia is just the better team, and there's something. Granted, they lost to what I think is going to be a very good Penn State team, and I don't want to hold that against them. I think overall, West Virginia is probably going to take this win.
Yep, I'm right there with you.
All right. Next up, we got LSU versus SC Junior or South Carolina, however you want to refer to them.
Yeah, College game day is going to be in Columbia, South Carolina. There, big matchup. I was shocked that it was there and not in Madison, Wisconsin. But hey, teach their own. Um, However, so far, and another team that I'm not a big fan of is SC, but I'll be honest, they have impressed me, especially on the defensive side these past 2 weeks. Man, I hate betting against LSU, but I like the Gamecocks in this one. Give me South
Yeah,
Carolina.
I think, man, I think after going
It
and
was a
beating,
tough one. It was a tough one for me to pick, especially with the high praise that I do have for LSU. But I just think with I was listening to Josh Pate's podcast. It's one of the most underrated stadiums in the entire country. William Bryce Stadium. It is freaking loud there. It's gonna be college game day. It's gonna be sold out. It's gonna be a crazy environment. South Carolina's defense right now is playing SEC ball. I think that between the crowd and the defense, I think SC can do enough on offense to win this game.
yeah, man, this is a tough pick. I went back and forth on it all
I
week.
waffle.
I waffled on it quite a few times. I think South Carolina and their defensive line, I think they're really good. Oh, but man, Garrett Nussmeier, he hasn't really had a bad game, even though LSU has lost, and they have
This
shown
is a
some.
50. This is a 50-50 matchup for sure. We got to pick. So I picked, I thought South Carolina home field advantage and how their defense is playing. I think that they can get to Nussmeier.
Yeah, man, it's tough. So, like I said, normally when I'm going through these pick'em games, I go defense. Who's got the better defense? Who's got the better quarterback? And for this one, I think it's split. I think LSU has the better quarterback and Garrett Nussmeier. Um, but I
Yeah.
think South Carolina has the better defense. So go ahead, give me. I'm right there with you. Give me defense and give me home field advantage. I think South Carolina fans, especially after that win versus Kentucky last week, playing at Kentucky, I think they are going to be
Dominant win in Kentucky.
dominant win. I think they are going to be energetic and they are going to show up big for this one. And I think LSU might be looking at a 1-2 start, which is not something I thought I would be saying here just 3 weeks into the season, but we'll see. But give me South Carolina. I'm with you on that one.
All right. Yeah. Yeah. So we got one then that we got the KU game. Looks like that's the only one that we got that
It's
we're
all right.
disagreeing on. So we'll see.
It's
It's
all
a
right.
LSU man. LSU is a good. They can easily win this game as well. I don't see it personally with how South Carolina's impressed me so far. So
I
anyway,
mean, so with how LSU lost week one, and they won week two versus Nichols, but what's not when you look at just the box score and all, if you're looking at the box score, LSU struggled in that game versus Nichols.
yeah,
Granted, they won 44-21, but I mean, if you dive a little deeper into it, I mean, it was pretty close there for a while. I mean, 9-7 at the end of the first, and then LSU started trying to separate pretty much in the third quarter, but then didn't score anything in the fourth.
yeah,
So, I mean, Garrett Nussmeier, he still looks really good, still playing really great, but I don't think they have the rushing game to support him, and then I also don't think they have the defense to support him. But overall, I mean, he looks great. It's just I don't know if they have the team around him to go in there and get the job done in South Carolina.
yep. No, I agree.
All right, so let's move on. We got we're getting towards the end of our show here. We got our dubs and duds of the week. Monty, we'll let you go ahead and kick it off, man. Who do you have as your dud of the week?
Yeah, you on dud or dub? Dud.
Dud.
So dud, DUD, dud of the week. It's gonna be Shadir Sanders and his post game comments about his O line. Dude, he's a freaking crybaby. And I don't know look. There could be more context to that, but it was pretty self-explanatory. Talking about how many times did Raiola get touched? Blah blah blah. This and that, dude. Yeah, you're probably right, but that's not something you say to the press. That's not how you get your guys to rally behind you. You don't say it. Yeah, it might be true, Yeah, you got sacked 6 times. You had 16 yards on the ground rushing. Get back, get back. My dog just came in. But that's just not something you say to because that's between you and them. That's between the team. It's just it goes back to that whole Colorado thing. It's a total diva squad, I don't even want to call the whole team a diva squad because it's not. But that the culture there, because of Dion and Shadir, it's all bad. And so yeah, Shadir making that comment, that's my dud of the week.
Yeah, like I said, I mean, I think that him making that comment is what's going to be. That's the reason that Colorado's never going to be able to make that work, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Overall, football, it's not a one person game, as clearly Shadur was alluding to. I mean, it's not a one person game. You know, even if you are one of the best quarterbacks in the game, if your O-line's not able to block anybody, guess what? You're not going to have a very good game. It's the ultimate team game, and with that being said, you can't take a selfish mentality into a team game and expect a good result. It's just never going to work out good for you, and it's not going to build the right kind of culture, and it's not going to build a winning culture that you need to establish long-term success and be able to get you through kind of the low points in a game. It's why Colorado, every time they come into a big matchup or a little adversity hits, they seem to fall flat on their face.
Yeah, they fold.
Yeah,
because the lights are too big for them, and it becomes this whole like publicity thing. Anyway,
if Dion moves after this year, I mean, I really look forward to seeing who the Buffs hire next, because I do think he did bring a lot of excitement into that program, ignite that fan base. They're rolling quite a bit as far as the fan base goes. I just don't think that he's going to be able to establish the kind of culture they need there to actually start winning significant football games.
Absolutely.
All right, so Monty, you want to go ahead and roll into your dub of the week?
Well, before we get to the upside, let's hear your dud.
All right.
What do you got for me?
I'll hit my dud. I like that. We'll start with we'll keep it our negatives first. We'll end on a positive note.
There you go.
All right, so my dud of the week, I got Notre Dame and I got Riley Leonard for just an absolute look. I said Oklahoma's game couldn't be worse. It absolutely could if it had this score attached to it.
That game, yeah.
So taking a loss, number 5 Notre Dame losing to NIU. Now, granted, I do not want to take anything away from what Northern Illinois did in this game. I'm not trying to discredit them at all by saying that Notre Dame is my dud of the week. But overall, I think if you're the number 5 team in the country and you have what me and you discussed as, hey, they have a very easy path to 12-0. Well, guess what?
We said it last week.
Last week, that was what we said. That was the narrative around Notre Dame. It's like, how do they not get in the playoff? Well, guess what? They just showed you how they don't, because I don't know if this is something that they can even recover from with their weak strength of schedule and not having a conference championship.
Marcus Freeman's 3rd loss as a 21-point favorite to an unranked team at home as a head coach of Notre Dame. His 3rd. How many years has he been the head coach here? 2, 3?
3. Brian Kelly and him have been there at the same time because Brian Kelly went to LSU.
So there you go. 3 years, 3 losses at home, being a 21-point favorite against an unranked opponent.
I just don't understand. I mean, granted, he is probably the best. He's probably the most in shape coach in college football. At least he's got to be like at least one of them. And I just don't understand how he can't get his team. It seems like you almost struggle getting them motivated. I don't think anybody's going to argue about whether or not Notre Dame has more talent than NIU. I don't think that's something we're discussing overall. But if you can't get your team to show up and perform or wake up at halftime and come out, I think that is a coaching error.
Well, that was the thing too. At the end, it was like they couldn't even get the lead.
Yeah.
Towards the end, like it was just like get the damn lead back, and they couldn't.
Yeah, it just seems like they couldn't get it to kind of come to fruition there, and they just struggled throughout the game, and it was just overall just a bad performance out of Notre Dame, and I don't think it's going to be a game that they can recover from.
We
outside of an absolute blowout of USC at the end of the year, that's probably Notre Dame's winning all the rest of their games and then blowing out USC is probably the only way they overcome this.
assuming that USC stays on the track that they're
Correct.
doing right now.
Correct. Assuming that. So Monty, that's all I got to
Yeah.
say. Abysmal
So that
performance by Notre
actually
Dame.
that does actually go right into my dub of the week. So Northern Illinois head coach Thomas Hammock, his post game. You remember I texted you right when it happened, dude. We were watching it out there, and we're out at this bigger like bar, sports bar, and we're watching the end of the game, and then he comes out, and then he's crying. You could tell he left it all out there with his guys. How much that meant to him and his team, and he's crying. And yeah, it was awesome. It was very inspiring. It was awesome to see NIU do that. Be able to walk into South Bend, beat the Golden Domers at home, and to show how much passion that coach had for his team and that win. It was really cool. So, yeah, you remember I texted you right there. I was like, I know who my dub of the week is right away. So, yeah, that was awesome to see. It was a fun game to watch, too, towards the end, especially when it was coming down the wire and kind of knew that the Huskies were going to pull that one out.
Yeah, he very well may have just coached himself right into the Florida job.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
However,
I don't know about that yet, but yeah, that's a hell of a coach. That's a passionate coach.
However, because I think, I say the Florida job, but I think Billy Napier might have found his light, to maybe get himself out of that tunnel. And that rolls right into my dub of the week. I got DJ Lagway, Florida, with a 45-7 win. Man, I said, we discussed it on last week's episode. I said, hey, Graham Mertz doesn't need to see the field again. And after DJ Lagway's performance here, going, looks like 18 of 25, 72% completion percentage, 486 yards, 3 touchdowns. Man, I don't see any way you turn away from it at this point. This is Billy. If Billy Napier wants to keep his job, DJ Lagway stays on the field. Even if it is against Samford, it doesn't matter. Graham Mertz has never performed at that level or flashed the talent that DJ Lagway has.
He's definitely going to end up being the more talented quarterback. It'll be interesting to see the decision that Billy Napier makes this week when they got A&M coming to the Swamp. And I would like to see DJ Lagway play against A&M, a tougher opponent than Samford. Because although it was Samford, it is still Samford. So you have to see what he can do against that SEC talent. I think he would. I'm kind of right there with you. I know I had mentioned about keeping Graham Mertz. Don't sink the ship just because you think it's but
sink it.
I mean, it'll be interesting to see what decision Napier makes this week.
I will say this: if Napier just starts Graham Mertz, that tells you all you need to know about Billy Napier. He just needs to go at that point. Because that would be.
I'm sure many Florida fans would agree with you.
Well, I think Florida fans they probably want to figure out a way that's like, hey, is there any way we can still get rid of Billy Napier but keep DJ Lagway? Because
that's the thing. That's the dangerous game you play.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, these players are. I mean, you got to think. The program affiliation isn't really what it used to be, even though it's kind of odd. So this is the part that's never really made sense to me. I'm going to go off on a little bit of a tangent here. I know we're running a little long in our show, but I just want to hit this point. It's like when players finish college ball, they finish with it, they move on to pros, or they retire from football, whatever the case may be. It's like they align themselves with that university. That's where they still go back. They go back, do fundraisers there, play, youth camps there, or, they show up at games. That's where they go. But it's like while they're there or while they're, playing, it seems like they're more aligned to the coach, if that makes sense.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
And so that's a risk you run with, possibly getting rid of Billy Napier is that, hey, DJ Lagway very well may be looking elsewhere to try to take his talent and his services. So, Monty, we'll finish the show kind of how we always do, man. We got your weekly hot take. What you got for us this week?
Yeah, so this one we kind of obviously wanted to talk about this episode because as people will know, and this is Thursday, September 12th. The news broke today. Obviously, the Pac-12 was not quite going away. So Yeah, my hot take of the week. It's more of a question, hypothetical, but will the Pac-12 make a resurgence? And I'm saying perhaps yes, they will. That's my hot take. We got the six pack now so far, and I think there will be more teams that come in. I guess that's more of the hot take. There will be a full 12 teams come 2026. That's 2026, not 2025. Got to give it some time, but I do think there's other teams out there that are trying to get into that Power Five conversation, whether it's a credible conference at that point or not. They're going to claim it. So I think there's going to be teams trying to get to that. But right now, it's the six pack. So we got Boise State, Fresno State, Colorado State, San Diego State all coming to the Pac-12, joining Oregon State and Washington State, which I like to call it the six pack. So
I like that. Six pack's it's a really good name, especially for the previous analogy that the commissioner, the commissioner said.
We're drinking. The Pac-12 is drinking tonight, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, the thing about the Pac-12, it's kind of when this news broke today. I mean, the only thing that popped in my head was, have you ever seen Monty Python and the Holy Grail?
Yeah.
Whenever they're carrying they're doing the cleanup of all the bodies from the the Black Plague that's hitting the area, and got the little guy on the cart, and he's like, "I'm not dead yet." That is the Pac-12. Not quite dead yet. They still got a little fight left in them. And I mean, if you look, I looked across Division I football teams, and there's plenty of teams out there that you could very easily see them picking up. Whether it be that UNLV that we discussed earlier in the show, or Nevada themselves, the Wolfpack.
I mean, hell, it could be a total revamp of the Mountain West, just making them Power 5, right? But it could also be, you can also get a Memphis in there, with the geography of the map seeming to not matter. You could put a Tulane in there. But even I mean, you can go to Montana State.
Yeah.
Who's a very good FCS. You can bring Idaho back to FBS. They were in FBS forever, or for a while, and they just went back to FCS. So they can come back, and they can be, so you have all these teams that are going to want to get their say in it, especially if it is still right. And another thing, it'll be interesting to see what the College Football Playoff Committee has to say about the Pac-12 coming back. If they consider them a Power 5 bid or not. It'll be interesting.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see, man. Overall, man, another good episode down. You got anything you want to say on the outro of the show?
No, it's kind of just what I said coming into this episode. Another exciting week ahead. We'll be excited, obviously, to talk about these games. I do feel comfortable about our picks. Next week, huge week for the show. Massive week for the show. Actually, I texted Murdy going into this episode a couple of days ago, thinking that our game was this week. I made the mistake, but no. OU hosts University of Tennessee in Norman next Saturday. So exciting week this week, but we're looking forward to the next episode big time.
Yeah, we got we're up to what? Almost a year and a half, almost 2 year build up into this game. So yeah, a lot of what riding on it. I hope my Sooners can kind of inspire a little bit more confidence in me. But man,
going to Norman makes me nervous. I will say that.
I think the fans are going to show up big. But overall, we thank y'all for listening. Thank y'all for tuning in. Please subscribe to the show. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, Facebook, wherever you listen to podcasts, whether it be Spotify, Apple Podcasts. We're on all platforms. Give us a follow. Tell your friends about us. Have them tune into the show. We also have, I did get a new order of hats in, so I have those available for anybody who wants some.
Hey,
reach out to us. So we got
he's got these guys here. They got the camo on it. If whoever's watching, I know most people are probably listening, but it's got the camo black trucker hat. It's a very, very stylish hat.
Yeah. So like I said, if y'all want a hat, reach out to us. We'll be sure to get you one. Overall, just thank y'all for listening. We'll catch y'all next week on the Monty and Murdy College Football Show. Peace.